Tyler was not the kind of guy who liked surprises every Tuesday and Thursday. He would walk into the same coffee shop at exactly 2:30 p.m. He always ordered the same thing, a medium coffee with 2 sugars and a blueberry muffin. Then he would sit at his favorite corner table, the one by the big window where he could watch people walk by while reading his textbooks. His friends often joked that he was like a robot with his daily routines. Tyler didn't mind the teasing. He found comfort in knowing what to expect. College was stressful enough without having to worry about where to sit or what to eat. His predictable life worked perfectly for him, or at least he thought it did. That particular October afternoon started like any other. The leaves outside were turning golden brown, and the coffee shop was filled with its usual mix of students typing on laptops and people chatting. Over steaming mugs, Tyler ordered his regular coffee and muffin, then headed to his corner table. He pulled out his psychology textbook and settled in for his usual 2-hour study session. He had been reading for about 20 minutes when the door opened and she walked in. Tyler glanced up from his book, and his eyes immediately locked onto her. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen before, tall and graceful. She moved through the crowded cafe like she was floating. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders in waves, and her skin had an almost luminous quality that seemed to catch the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. But it wasn't just her physical appearance that caught his attention. There was something about the way she carried herself that made her stand out from everyone else in the room. She walked with complete confidence, yet there was nothing arrogant about it. She looked around the cafe with genuine curiosity, as if she was seeing everything for the first time. Her eyes were an unusual shade of green-blue that seemed to shift colors as she moved. Tyler found himself staring, something he rarely did. He was usually the type to keep his head buried in his books, barely noticing the world around him. But this woman commanded attention without even trying. Other people in the cafe were stealing glances at her too, he noticed. Conversations seemed to pause as she walked by, and several people turned to watch her move through the space. She approached the counter with fluid movements that reminded Tyler of a dancer. When she spoke to the barista, her voice carried an accent that he couldn't quite identify. It wasn't Spanish or French or anything else he recognized from his limited language experience. The words flowed together in a melodic way that made even a simple coffee order sound like poetry. Tyler tried to return to his textbook, but found himself reading the same paragraph over and over again. His attention kept drifting back to the mysterious woman at the counter. She ordered something complex that required several questions from the confused barista. She seemed patient with the back and forth, explaining her request with gentle hand gestures and a warm smile as she waited for her drink. She turned and surveyed the seating area. The cafe was packed, as it usually was during the afternoon rush. Every table seemed to be occupied, and people were even sharing tables with strangers. Tyler watched as her unusual eyes scanned the room, taking in each occupied space with the same curious attention she had shown when first entering. Her gaze eventually landed on Tyler's table, where the chair across from him sat empty. He had deliberately chosen a table for two, even though he always studied alone, because it gave him more space to spread out his books and notes. Now, as she began walking in his direction, he suddenly felt nervous about his antisocial seating. She stopped right beside his table, and Tyler looked up to find those mesmerizing eyes focused directly on him. Up close, her beauty was even more striking, but it was her expression that really caught him off guard. There was something almost otherworldly about the way she looked at him, as if she could see right through to his thoughts. "Excuse me," she said, and her melodic accent made the simple words sound exotic. "Would you mind if I sat here? Everywhere else seems to be taken." Tyler felt his mouth go dry. In his 3 years of coming to this coffee shop, no one had ever asked to share his table. He had built his entire routine around avoiding exactly this kind of social interaction. But looking up at her expectant face, he found himself nodding before his brain could process what was happening. "Of course," he managed to say, quickly gathering his scattered notes and textbooks to make room for her. she smiled. And Tyler felt something shift inside his chest. It was the kind of smile that seemed to light up her entire face. Genuine and warm in a way that made him feel like they had been friends for years, rather than strangers sharing a table out of necessity. "Thank you so much," she said, settling gracefully into the chair across from him. "I'm still learning my way around this area, and this place seems lovely for studying." As she arranged her things on the table, Tyler noticed that even her belongings seemed unusual. Her bag was made of some kind of woven material he had never seen before, with intricate patterns that looked handmade. Her notebook had a leather cover with symbols carved into it that definitely weren't English. Even her pen looked unique, with unusual metallic details along its length. She caught him looking and smiled again. "I know my things look a bit different," she said with a laugh that sounded like music. "I grew up somewhere very far from here, where we make things differently." Tyler found himself genuinely curious, something that rarely happened with new people. Usually, he preferred to avoid small talk and focus on his studies. But something about this woman made him want to know more. "Where are you from?" he asked. Surprising himself with his boldness, her expression became thoughtful, as if she was considering how to answer. "It's hard to explain," she said finally. "A place where people live very differently from here, where community and connection matter more than individual space." She gestured around the cafe, where people sat at separate tables despite the crowded conditions. "Where I come from, sharing and closeness are natural parts of daily life." Tyler nodded. Though he wasn't entirely sure what she meant, her answer had been vague. But somehow her mysterious background only made her more intriguing. As they sat there in comfortable silence, both opening their books to study, Tyler realized that his carefully ordered world had just encountered something completely unexpected, and for the first time in years, he wasn't sure if he wanted to return to his predictable routine. The next Tuesday, Tyler found himself looking around the coffee shop more than usual. He kept glancing at the door, wondering if Luna would show up again. He told himself he was just curious about the mysterious woman, but deep down he knew he was hoping to see her. When she walked through the door at exactly 3:15 p.m., Tyler felt his heart skip a beat. She moved through the cafe with that same graceful confidence, scanning the room until her eyes landed on him. This time, she walked directly to his table without hesitation. "Mind if I join you again?" she asked, already pulling out the chair across from him. "I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday." Tyler nodded quickly, closing his psychology textbook to make room for her. "Of course. I was actually hoping you'd come back." The words slipped out before he could stop them, and Tyler felt his face flush with embarrassment. He wasn't the type to admit things like that, especially to someone he barely knew. Luna smiled, that radiant smile that seemed to light up her entire face. "Really? That's wonderful. I was worried I might have been bothering you yesterday with all my questions about this place." Over the next hour, Tyler learned more about Luna. Though her answers often raised more questions than they answered, she was a student too, she said. Though she never mentioned what she was studying, she had moved to the area recently from a place where people live very differently, but she remained vague about the specifics. What struck Tyler most was how comfortable she seemed to be with physical closeness. When she leaned across the table to look at something in his textbook, her hand brushed against his arm and lingered there for several seconds. When she laughed at something he said, she reached out and touched his shoulder naturally, as if they had been friends for years. Most people Tyler knew maintained careful distances, especially with new acquaintances, but Luna operated by different rules entirely. She sat closer than necessary, made frequent eye contact, and used gentle touches to emphasize her words in ways that should have felt invasive, but somehow didn't. "You seem surprised when I do this," Luna observed during one of their conversations, gesturing to her hand resting on his forearm. "Is physical contact uncommon in friendships here?" Tyler thought about it. Not uncommon exactly, but more reserved, I guess. People usually take time to build up to that level of comfort. Luna's expression grew thoughtful. "How interesting. Where I grew up, touch was a natural part of communication. Keeping distance from someone usually meant you didn't trust them or didn't want to be close to them, The pattern continued over the following weeks. Luna began appearing in Tyler's life with surprising frequency. At first, he thought it was coincidence. The campus wasn't that large, after all, and students naturally gravitated towards similar places. But it kept happening in ways that seemed almost too convenient to be random. Tyler would arrive at the library to find Luna already there, saving a seat beside her at his preferred table. He would grab lunch at the student center only to have Luna appear in line behind him, explaining that she was still learning the best times to eat to avoid crowds. Even more puzzling, she started showing up at places Tyler had never mentioned to her. When he went to the small laundromat near his apartment building, a place he had never talked about with anyone, Luna arrived 20 minutes later, with her own basket of clothes. What a coincidence, she said brightly, though Tyler was beginning to wonder if coincidence had anything to do with it. I've been trying different laundromats around the area to find the best one. This one seems nice and quiet. Tyler wanted to ask her directly if she was following him, but every time he considered it, Luna's explanation seemed perfectly reasonable. She was new to the area and was naturally drawn to the same quiet, uncrowded places that appealed to him. It made sense that their paths would cross frequently. What made the situation even more confusing was how much Tyler was beginning to enjoy Luna's constant presence. He had always prided himself on being independent, on not needing other people to feel complete. But Luna's company was becoming something he looked forward to rather than something he tolerated. She had a way of making ordinary activities feel more interesting. Doing laundry became an opportunity for conversation about different approaches to daily life. Studying in the library became a collaborative effort, with Luna asking thoughtful questions that helped Tyler understand his own coursework better. Most surprisingly, Luna was comfortable with long periods of comfortable silence. Tyler had always avoided study groups and group activities because he found constant chatter distracting, but Luna could sit beside him for hours, reading her own books while he worked, only occasionally making quiet observations or asking brief questions. The physical closeness continued to escalate in ways that Tyler found both startling and oddly comforting. Luna began sitting in the chair directly next to him rather than across from him, close enough that their shoulders would brush when they both reached for something. She would rest her hand on his arm while making a point, or lean against him slightly while reading over his shoulder. During one particularly memorable study session, Luna had actually rested her head on Tyler's shoulder while reading, explaining that the angle was better for her neck. Tyler had sat perfectly still for nearly an hour, acutely aware of her warmth and the faint floral scent of her hair, trying to concentrate on his textbook while his heart raced. Tyler's roommate Kevin started making comments about his mysterious girlfriend who seemed to be around constantly. When Tyler insisted that they were just friends, Kevin would raise his eyebrows skeptically. "Dude, I've never seen a just friend who sits that close to you," Kevin observed one evening. "She's practically glued to your side whenever I see you two together. Are you sure there's nothing romantic going on?" Tyler honestly wasn't sure of anything anymore. Luna's behavior was unlike anything he had experienced. The casual touching, the constant closeness, the way she seemed to seek out his company, it all felt more intimate than his previous friendships. But Luna never gave any indication that she saw their relationship as anything other than platonic. When he finally worked up the courage to ask Luna about it directly, her answer was both enlightening and puzzling. "Physical closeness is how I show people that I care about them," she explained simply. "Where I come from, friends touch each other, sit close together, show affection openly. Keeping someone at arm's length means you don't really trust them or want them in your life." Tyler found himself thinking about her words long after their conversation ended. In his world, people maintain careful boundaries and build intimacy slowly over time. But Luna's approach felt more honest somehow, more direct and genuine than the polite distances he was used to dot as the days turned into weeks. Tyler began to realize that Luna wasn't just changing his understanding of friendship, she was changing him. He found himself more relaxed around other people, more willing to engage in casual conversations with classmates. He started sitting closer to people during group projects and noticed that others seemed to respond positively to his increased warmth. But questions about Luna herself continued to multiply. Her stories about her background remained frustratingly vague, filled with references to places and customs that didn't quite make sense. Sometimes Tyler caught her looking around public spaces with an expression of confusion or sadness, as if she were trying to understand something that didn't come naturally to her. Late at night, Tyler would lie in bed wondering who Luna really was and where she had really come from. But when he saw her the next day, settling in close beside him with that warm smile, all his questions seemed less important than the simple fact that she had somehow made his carefully ordered world infinitely more interesting and alive. The first time Luna sat in Tyler's lap, it happened so naturally that he almost didn't register what was occurring until it was already done. It was a Wednesday evening in November, and Tyler's apartment was hosting what had become their regular weekly study group. The gathering had started small, just Tyler, his roommate Kevin, and a couple of classmates working on assignments together. But word had spread, and now their Wednesday sessions regularly attracted 8 or 10 people. Tyler's small living room was always packed, with students claiming every available seat and spreading their books across every flat surface. That particular evening, more people had shown up than usual. Kevin had invited some friends from his engineering classes. Tyler had mentioned the group to a few people from his psychology courses, and somehow word had reached students from other departments as well. By 7 o'clock, their living room was completely full. Tyler was settled in his usual spot on the couch, textbooks spread across his lap and notes organized on the cushion beside him. The 2 armchairs were occupied. Kevin had claimed the other end of the couch, and 3 people were sitting cross-legged on the floor with their backs against the wall. Even the desk chair from Kevin's bedroom had been dragged into the living room. Tyler was deep in reading about cognitive behavioral therapy when Luna arrived. She stood in the doorway, taking in the crowded scene with amusement. Everyone else was absorbed in their own work, completely focused on their books and assignments. "Looks like I'm fashionably late," Luna said with a laugh. "Where should I set up shop tonight?" Tyler looked around the room, suddenly realizing there wasn't a single empty seat available. The floor was an option, but it didn't look particularly comfortable for a long study session. Several people had tried sitting on the carpet earlier in the semester, but they usually ended up with sore backs and complained about the hard surface. Tyler was about to suggest that Luna could share the couch with him and Kevin, or maybe grab a pillow to make floor sitting more comfortable, when Luna solved the problem in her own characteristically direct way. Without any hesitation, awkwardness, or apparent second thought, she walked over to where Tyler was sitting and simply settled herself across his lap. She adjusted her position until she was comfortable, arranged her books on the arm of the couch, and opened her notebook as if sitting on another person was the most natural seating arrangement in the world. Tyler felt every muscle in his body tense. Luna was sitting directly on his legs, her back resting against his chest, acting as if this was a perfectly normal way to solve a seating shortage. He could feel the warmth of her body through her clothes, smell the faint floral scent of her shampoo, and sense the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. The room had gone completely quiet. Conversations that had been buzzing moments before came to an abrupt halt. Kevin was staring with his mouth slightly open, his engineering textbook forgotten in his hands. The other students were exchanging glances that ranged from amused to shocked to envious. Tyler felt his face burning with embarrassment. Luna was essentially sitting in his lap, in front of all his friends and classmates, acting like it was no big deal whatsoever. Part of him wanted to ask her to move, to find a different solution to the seating problem, but another part of him was curious to see how this would play out, and truthfully, Luna's presence wasn't entirely unpleasant. "This is much more comfortable than the floor," Luna said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the stunned silence surrounding them. "Thank you for sharing your seat, Tyler. You don't mind, do you?" Tyler managed to shake his head, though he wasn't entirely confident that was true. His mind was spinning, trying to process what was happening. Luna was sitting in his lap, in public, in front of people they both knew, and she seemed completely unbothered by the attention they were receiving. After several long moments of awkward silence, conversations gradually began to resume. Kevin kept shooting Tyler questioning looks across the couch, but Luna's matter-of-fact attitude seemed to make the situation somehow acceptable to everyone else. She participated normally in discussions about their various assignments, asked thoughtful questions about other people's projects, and took notes diligently, all while remaining comfortably settled across Tyler's legs as the evening progressed. Tyler found himself slowly relaxing despite the unusual circumstances. Luna was warm and soft against him, and there was something surprisingly soothing about her presence. She would occasionally shift position to reach for a book or pen, or lean back against him while listening to someone explain a concept. But she never seemed self-conscious about their physical closeness. At one point, during a particularly animated discussion about a shared assignment, Luna leaned forward to gesture while making a point, then settled back against Tyler's chest more fully than before. Tyler felt his breath catch, but Luna simply continued with her explanation as if nothing had changed. When people started packing up their things around 10 o'clock, several of Tyler's classmates made joking comments about his cozy study setup and creative seating solutions. Luna just laughed good-naturedly and thanked everyone for another productive evening, completely unfazed by the teasing. Same time next week, she asked brightly, gathering her books and standing up from Tyler's lap as naturally as she had settled there 3 hours earlier. After everyone had left and Kevin had disappeared into his bedroom with pointed comments about giving them privacy to talk, Tyler finally found the courage to address what had happened. "Luna," he said carefully, his voice sounding strange to his own ears about the sitting arrangement tonight. She turned to face him with those unusual, captivating eyes, her head tilted slightly in curious attention. "Was it a problem? You seemed okay with it, but I realized that might have been presumptuous of me. I should have asked first." Tyler struggled to find the right words to express what he was feeling. "It wasn't exactly a problem. It's just where I come from. People don't usually sit like that unless they're, romantically involved, dating, couples." Luna's expression brightened with understanding, and she nodded enthusiastically. "Oh, I see. That explains all the surprised looks we got tonight. Where I grew up, physical closeness between friends is very normal and natural. Sharing seats, leaning against each other, sitting together closely, it's just how people show they care about each other and feel comfortable together. It doesn't have any romantic meaning at all." She paused, looking slightly concerned for the first time since Tyler had known her. "I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable or put you in an awkward position with your friends. I can definitely find other seating arrangements in the future if this doesn't work with your cultural norms and expectations." Tyler found himself shaking his head quickly, almost before she had finished speaking. "No, it's okay. It was just surprising at first, but not bad surprising. Just different from what I'm used to." Luna's smile returned, bright and warm, and Tyler felt that familiar flutter in his chest that seemed to happen whenever she looked at him with such genuine affection. "Good, because I have to admit, it was quite comfortable. Much better than sitting on that hard floor for 3 hours." Over the following weeks, the lap sitting became a regular occurrence, though it wasn't limited to crowded study groups. It happened at the library when all the chairs at their favorite table were taken by other students' bags and coats. It occurred during movie nights at friends' apartments, when there weren't enough seats for everyone who had shown up. It even happened in public places like the student center when they were waiting for friends, and the only available seating was a single chair each time. Tyler felt that same initial jolt of awareness and surprise, followed by gradual relaxation, as Luna's casual, comfortable attitude made the situation feel normal and natural. She would curl up against him while reading, rest her head on his shoulder during movies, or simply use him as a comfortable backrest while taking notes or having conversations with others. The reactions of their friends and classmates varied widely. Some seemed envious of the attention Tyler was receiving from someone as striking and unusual as Luna. Others appeared confused by their relationship, unable to categorize what they were witnessing. A few people made assumptions about romantic involvement, despite Tyler's continued insistence that they were just friends. Luna remained completely unbothered by any of the attention, speculation, or commentary. When people made direct comments about their unusual seating arrangement, she would explain cheerfully about different cultural approaches to friendship and physical affection. Her genuine, unself-conscious manner seemed to disarm most criticism and make even the most skeptical observers eventually accept their unconventional dynamic. Tyler began to realize that Luna wasn't just challenging his personal understanding of boundaries in physical space. She was challenging his entire concept of human connection and intimacy. Through her behavior, he was learning that closeness didn't have to be complicated, loaded with expectations, or fraught with romantic implications. Sometimes it could be as simple and pure as sharing warmth and comfort with someone you genuinely cared about. For months had passed since Tyler first met Luna, and he still couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important she wasn't telling him. The mystery around her background had only grown deeper with time. Her stories about her childhood were always vague, filled with references to places and customs that didn't quite make sense when he tried to piece them together. It was a cold Friday evening in March when everything finally came to light. Tyler's roommate Kevin had gone home for spring break early, leaving the apartment unusually quiet. Tyler and Luna were sitting on the couch together in what had become their normal position. Luna curled up comfortably in his lap while they both studied for their upcoming exams. The silence between them was usually comfortable, but tonight it felt different. Luna had been unusually quiet all week, and Tyler noticed she kept glancing at him when she thought he wasn't looking. There was something weighing on her mind, something that seemed to be making her more serious than usual. Tyler had learned to read Luna's moods over the past few months. He could tell when she was genuinely happy versus when she was putting on a brave face. Tonight, she seemed troubled in a way he had never seen before. She had been staring at the same page of her textbook for 20 minutes without turning it. Luna, Tyler said gently, closing his own book and setting it aside. You seemed distracted all week. Is everything okay? She looked up at him with those unusual eyes that had first caught his attention months ago. But tonight, for the first time since he had known her, Tyler saw something vulnerable there. The confident woman who had walked into his life and changed. Everything suddenly seemed uncertain, almost fragile. Tyler, she said quietly, can I tell you something important, something I should have told you months ago? But I was scared of how you might react. Tyler felt his heart rate increase. He had been waiting for this moment, hoping Luna would eventually trust him enough to share whatever secrets she was keeping. Of course. He said, you can tell me anything. Luna took a deep breath and shifted so she could face him more directly. I haven't been completely honest about where I come from, she began. When I said I grew up somewhere far away where people live differently, that was true. But it wasn't another country like you probably thought. Tyler waited patiently, sensing this was difficult for her. I grew up in what most people call a commune, Luna continued, watching his face carefully. My parents joined when I was very young, and I lived there until I was 20. It was a community of about 200 people who shared everything. Our homes, our food, our responsibilities, and yes, our physical affection. Tyler felt pieces of a puzzle suddenly clicking into place. So that's why I touch people so easily, why I sit close, why physical contact feels natural to me. Luna finished, in my community, touch was how we showed love and friendship. Keeping distance from someone meant you didn't trust them or didn't want them close. She looked down at her hands, which were resting on his chest. Children were raised by everyone, not just their parents. Adults hugged freely, sat together, showed affection openly. There were no barriers between people like there are here. Tyler began to understand so many things about Luna that had puzzled him. Her easy intimacy, her discomfort with social distances, her confusion about normal boundaries, it all made sense now. When I first came to live in the regular world, I felt so lonely. Luna continued, everyone seemed so cold and separated from each other. People would sit far apart even when they said they were friends. They avoided touching each other. It felt like everyone was afraid of real connection. Is that why you always seemed to find me wherever I went? Tyler asked. Luna's cheeks turned pink. Sometimes, yes. You were the first person I met who didn't make me feel weird for wanting closeness. Most people here seem afraid of real intimacy, even in friendship. But you let me be myself. Tyler thought about all the times Luna had appeared in his life, bringing warmth he hadn't realized he needed. What happened to your community? Why did you leave? Luna's expression grew sad. It fell apart 2 years ago. There were arguments, money problems, people leaving. My parents thought it was time for me to learn how to live in the outside world. They said I needed to be independent. But you miss it, Tyler said, seeing the pain in her eyes. Every day, Luna admitted, I miss feeling like I belonged somewhere, being surrounded by people who really cared about each other. I miss the warmth and openness. Here, everyone seems so alone, even when they're with other people. Tyler found himself thinking about his own life before Luna, his careful routines, his deliberate isolation, his fear of getting too close to anyone. He had thought he was content, but now he realized he had just been emotionally shut down. I understand why you didn't tell me right away, Tyler said. People probably judge your background pretty harshly. Luna nodded. Most people think anyone who grew up in a commune must be damaged or naive. But I'm not damaged, Tyler. I just learned a different way of showing I care about people. Tyler looked at Luna with new understanding. She wasn't the mysterious woman he had imagined, but someone who had been raised with completely different values and was trying to find her place in a world that didn't understand her. I'm glad you told me, he said. And I don't think there's anything wrong with how you show affection. If anything, I think the rest of us could learn from you. Luna's face lit up with relief. Really? You don't think I'm strange? I think you're brave, Tyler said sincerely. It takes courage to stay true to yourself when everyone expects you to be different. As they sat together in the quiet apartment, Tyler realized Luna hadn't just been teaching him about physical affection. She had been showing him what it looked like to live authentically, even when it made others uncomfortable. For the first time, Tyler understood that the questions he had about Luna were really questions about himself. Who was he when he stopped? Hiding behind routines and walls? What kind of person could he become if he learned to connect like Luna did? The thought both excited and terrified him. But looking at Luna's trusting face, he knew he wanted to find out. Thank you for trusting me with this, Tyler said softly. Luna smiled. The first genuine smile he had seen from her all week. Thank you for not running away. Tyler laughed. Why would I run away from the best thing that's happened to me? Luna's smile grew even brighter, and Tyler felt something shift between them. Not romantic love, but something deeper, complete acceptance and understanding. They had found something rare and precious together, something that didn't fit normal categories, but was more meaningful than anything Tyler had ever experienced. As Luna settled back against him, Tyler realized his life had been completely transformed by someone who had simply refused to accept that people had to keep each other at arm's length. She had shown him that real connection was possible, and he would never be the same. 2 years later, Tyler's life looked nothing like it had before Luna walked into that coffee shop. The change had been so gradual that he sometimes forgot how isolated and closed off he used to be. But when he really thought about it, he could barely recognize the person he had been. The most obvious change was how he related to other people. The shy, withdrawn student who had eaten every meal alone had become someone who actively sought out human connection. Tyler now hosted regular dinner parties in his apartment, joined hiking groups on weekends, and had even started volunteering at a local community center. But the change went much deeper than just being more social. Tyler had learned to be truly present with people in ways he never understood before. Luna had taught him to listen not just to words, but to feelings and needs that people couldn't always express. He noticed when friends were struggling and offered real support. He celebrated their wins with genuine joy. He had become the kind of friend he never knew how to be. The lap sitting had continued and evolved into something beautiful. What started as Luna's way of recreating familiar closeness had become a symbol of their unique bond. When Luna settled into Tyler's lap now, it represented complete trust and acceptance that went beyond normal social rules. Their friend group had also changed because of Luna's influence. People hugged more freely, sat closer together, and seemed more comfortable with showing affection. Luna's approach to friendship had created ripples that spread throughout their social circle, making everyone more open and connected. Tyler had also learned to understand himself better through Luna's patient guidance. She had helped him see that his old isolation wasn't really a preference, it was fear. He had been protecting himself from possible rejection by avoiding real connections altogether. But Luna showed him that genuine intimacy was worth the risk. It was a warm evening in May, and they were sitting in the same coffee shop where they first met, now 2 years ago. Luna was curled up in the big armchair next to him, her legs draped across his lap as she often did. The familiar position felt as natural as breathing now. "I've been thinking about the future," Luna said quietly, breaking into Tyler's thoughts. About what happens after graduation next month. Tyler felt his stomach tighten. Graduation was approaching fast, and he had been trying not to think about what it might mean for their friendship. "Have you decided what you want to do?" Tyler asked. Though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer, Luna was quiet for a moment, looking out at the campus, where students were enjoying the spring weather. "I got accepted to that graduate program in California," she said finally. "The one that specializes in community psychology and alternative living situations." Tyler's heart sank. Of course, Luna would want to help others who felt displaced and misunderstood. It was perfect for her, but it was 3,000 miles away. "That's amazing," Tyler said, trying to sound enthusiastic despite his disappointment. "You'll be incredible at that work." Luna turned to look at him with a small smile. "There's something else, though. I also got accepted to the social work program here. They have a track that focuses on building stronger communities and helping people connect with each other." Tyler felt a spark of hope. "Really? You could stay here?" "I could," Luna said carefully, "but I wasn't sure if I should. I didn't want to assume our friendship would continue the same way after college. People change. They move on to new chapters of their lives." Tyler stared at her in amazement. How could she possibly doubt how important she was to him? "Luna, you completely changed my life," Tyler said with more emotion than he usually showed. "Before I met you, I was just going through the motions, keeping everyone at a distance. You taught me how to really connect with people, how to be open and caring. Why would I want to lose that?" Luna's smile grew brighter. "So you wouldn't mind if I stuck around for a few more years?" "I would mind if you didn't," Tyler said honestly, as they sat together in comfortable silence. Tyler thought about how their relationship had grown into something that didn't fit normal categories. They weren't romantic partners, but they were much more than regular friends. They had created their own kind of connection based on genuine care, physical comfort, and complete acceptance of each other. Looking round the coffee shop, Tyler could see other students sitting at separate tables, focused on their phones and laptops, maintaining careful distances even from friends. 2 years ago, he would have been one of them. Now he understood what Luna had been trying to show him from the beginning, that people were meant to connect deeply with each other. Luna had challenged him to question social rules that didn't actually serve anyone. She had shown him that real relationships required vulnerability and the courage to be truly seen by another person. Most importantly, she had helped him discover he was capable of much deeper connections than he ever imagined. As they got ready to leave the coffee shop, Luna naturally took Tyler's hand, and he felt that familiar sense of rightness. Whatever the future brought, Luna had given him something precious, the ability to love and be loved without fear or reservation. Tyler knew that Luna's influence would stay with him forever. She had taught him that meaningful relationships often don't fit society's expectations, and that was okay. Love comes in many forms, And sometimes the most important connections are the ones that exist outside traditional categories. Years from now, Tyler would look back on his friendship with Luna as the turning point in his life. She had shown him what it meant to live with an open heart, and that lesson would transform every relationship and every day that followed. As they walked across campus together, Tyler felt grateful for the day a mysterious woman had decided his coffee shop table was worth sharing. That simple moment had led to a friendship that changed everything about how he understood human connection. Luna had been right all along. Life was so much better when you stopped keeping people at arm's length and started letting them close enough to matter. And Tyler would never go back to his old way of living, not when he had experienced the warmth and joy of genuine human connection.